I created this short video to highlight the way I do sermon preparation while within OneNote. Um, I've spent quite a bit of time trying to find the best process using OneNote to do this. This works for me. Obviously, you may have other methodologies that have worked for you in the past. I'd love to hear how you arrange and set up and conduct a systematic approach to your sermon prep if you're involved in that, either on a weekly basis or on occasion. But anyway, the way I do it is using OneNote, which is free. By the way, you can just Google OneNote, and it's free for anybody to use, PC, Mac, Windows 7 or higher on PC. Anyway, I simply set up a notebook. I create a notebook called New Testament Sermons. Now, you can call this whatever you like. I just happen to call it New Testament Sermons. And then inside of this notebook here, I have a templates page, which I have begun to add various templates that I will consistently use over and over again. Now, this first template is my sermon planner, beginning to end. I don't have prayer in here. Obviously, I'm praying constantly through my sermon as I'm working and before study time and that sort of thing. So, not to dismiss that, but I just want to stick with these particulars. And I start with the Greek and the Hebrew, and I simply work through the exegesis. Then I deal with a verse-to-verse, verse-by-verse process, working my way down through my own personal, through cross-references, lexical, grammatical issues, then my own personal commentaries, and then these others that I have listed here. You may have a different list of your go-to guys, but these are mine for the time being. Then I have a summary section, basic rough thoughts, summary idea about the passage itself, so that it's clear in my mind as to what is being communicated by the writer to the audience. And then various comments. At this point, I've already begun a rough outline. As I've been working through the exegesis, I'm beginning to see things come out. And so my outline is starting to take shape, but it's really rough, not very pleasing to the eye, as it were. But this is where it would be, as well as a rough proposition or idea that may be coming out as I work through the text. My final outline or proposition is where everything kind of comes together. The outline itself, who am I preaching to, various applications and illustrations I might want to use, where they belong in the sermon, the purpose of my sermon, what do I want to do in this sermon, and then a final outline proposition, and then I write out my conclusion in my introduction. So let me show you the specifics of this. I'm currently preaching through the book of Mark, and what I did is I created a group. It's called a group. You simply right-click and say New Section Group, and then you can put your book of the Bible in there. I recommend that you number the book accordingly. So if you're in Romans, it's Genesis, Exodus, or Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, it'd be number 6. And so you'd have a 0, 6. You want to do that so that in the group section they stay in order by number, not by alphabetical. So that's kind of critical. So you create a new section group. I created one for Mark, and when I did that, I open it up, and it shows me in Mark. If I want to go back, I hit that. But it shows me in Mark, and these top tabs here are my chapters. So chapter 1 through all the way to 9 right now. That's as far as I've worked. I'm actually here in chapter 6 in my sermon prep, and I've actually set up through up to chapter 9. Now I'm going to use chapter 8 as my base to show you how I do this. The top is the chapters. The right-hand side is the various pericopes that I'm going to be dealing with. So I'm preaching from Mark 8, 1 to 13. You notice I highlight, or I set apart that section with these 3 stars on both ends, because I don't want them to bleed into the next section down here. I want them to stay separated, just for my own visual recognition. And then in this first section, it's point 1 of my sermon planner, the Greek and Hebrew. It's Greek, of course. I have the entire Greek text, verses 1 to 13, pasted in from BibleWorks. And I adjust the font using SBL Greek. And I adjust the font to 16. It's easier to read. I have the verse numbers all listed. And then I footnote each word in each verse. So verse 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, has 20 footnotes. And then verse 2 has 15, and so forth. And there's a reason for that I'm going to show you in a minute. Below that, I have the English translation from the ESV. That's my preferred translation. I use that in the pulpit, so I have that there. And then below that, I will have a structural analysis section for Greek and English. English, if I'm zealous, if I have time, generally no. But there I would have the structural analysis all in place. To the right here in this column, I might be making notes as I work through the structural analysis on various things I might want to deal with. I have translation section that I have 3 translations right in front of me: ESV, New King James, and the New American Standard Bible. And they're laid side by side so that I can look really easily, quickly through each one. You can choose whatever you like. Of course, those are the 3 that I've picked, and they may vary from text to text depending on the circumstance. I can always add more out here to the right, and then I'd have to scroll, and it's a little harder. So I just pick 3 and work from them. The next tab, the next page is called an arc. Bible arcing is kind of, some people really enjoy using it, and I've begun to look into it more. So I haven't done anything with this yet. So this particular page is blank. By the way, just so I don't confuse people, these are tabs, these are pages. All right, tabs at the top, pages at the bottom, or the right. And then I begin to work individually in each verse as they come. So if you remember from here, the pericope, verse 1, is this right here. Is this whole section is verse 1. And then I just copy that out, and then I paste it right up at here. And this is now Roman numeral 2 on my verse by verse analysis on my planner. Okay, so Roman numeral 2, Greek text, verse 1 is here, and it's numbered all the way to 20. Then I have a chart numbered all the way to 20, and each number represents the number of the word in position in the Greek verse. And then I have a place where I can put in the information that's necessary and translate it out all the way through, down to the bottom, where I would then write out my full translation. Then I have, as I'm doing this, I'm noting, I can highlight, boldface, whatever, words that may be important to deal with from a lexical or grammatical perspective. I use Daniel Wallace's textbook to help reference some of these issues, but matters of dative and genitive and various participial usages and whatnot usually show up in these cases, and then I'll make note of them and comment on them accordingly. Cross references are very important, and I look each one of them up, and I will make comments on those. And as I do that, I will simply add a 1 and type in the cross-reference, and then maybe make a comment or 2 here about that. So it just depends on how many there are and whatnot. BibleWorks, again, is very helpful for this, but a good study Bible will do the same thing. And then I have the commentary section, where here I will begin to make notes and write out in full my own commentary on the particular text. Now here, I always start with my own personal commentaries where I look at other commentaries. So I write out my comments. Sometimes that's very brief because there's not much there to deal with. Then I'll look at Calvin, Henry, Matthew Poole, and then maybe other technical commentaries as well. Those other technical commentaries, especially the Greek commentaries of the New Testament, are also very useful in point B for lexical and grammatical issues. And so I'll make notes there as well. So I'm kind of going back and forth in that section. But here I'm beginning to get a really good understanding of the verse. And then I just go to the next, then I would go to the next verse in the list. Again, it's the same process, all the way down to the very end, same process. Then I have a summary section, a pericope summary, where I will write out my general thoughts, summarize the passage in my own words, comments, and then a rough outline and proposition, which is already probably starting to fill in at this point. I've jumped to that tab numerous times as I'm working through the text and starting to come up with some kind of an outline. And then I'll have my final outline and proposition. Here I will put it all together, mindful of who I'm preaching to, applications where they belong, appropriate applications where they belong in the sermon, illustrations as well. What's my purpose of the sermon, and a final outline and proposition, as well as a handwritten. I write out my conclusion and my introduction in full so that I'm prepared to go when the Lord's Day shows up. So this is the way I've set up OneNote to do this. I have BibleWorks, what makes it easy to copy and paste the Greek right in using SBL fonts. The same process works in Hebrew as well, and I'll show you that really quick. I'm preaching through the Ten Commandments right now, so the pericope for that Hebrew section is here marked, and you can see there's footnotes for every word in the Hebrew, and then I have the English below it, and again, a structural analysis as it applies. Various translations of Exodus 20, again, the same three that I showed you before. Bible arcing is empty, and then 21, here I have the Hebrew, remember, right to left in Hebrew, and then, of course, the exegesis is a little bit different because it's Hebrew, so you have different aspects of nouns and verbs and other special features in the translations. Everything else is the same. Is the very same process as I would use in the Greek. It doesn't really change anything. So, and then again, verse 2, same idea. Verse 3, same idea. They're numbered all the way to 13, so I didn't erase all the ones I could have here, but I can do that right now, and so that's gone. Now I don't have to worry about it. But same process in Hebrew. So quick review, create a notebook, New Testament sermons, Old Testament sermons. I would recommend that you create 2 separate notebooks, one for New Testament, one for Old. And your New Testament sermons, once you've created that, you want to create a group, right click, new section, group, and then name it your book of the Bible, open that, and then start your tabs across the top with your various chapters. And then on the right hand side, your pericopes. Here I was still learning OneNote, obviously, and not getting it really well. Here I began to formulate my process a little bit better, and it got even more smooth later on. Here's an example of a filled in chart from the Greek. I used to copy and paste the Greek in, but that was taking way too much time, and so I switched up in chapter 6. I switched to the number process, just a little easier and faster. But again, the tabs are your chapters. The right hand side is the verses, your pericope, what you're working in. I would suggest you number your sermons so you know this is sermon number 16 or whatever the case may be. I hope this is helpful. You can always email me if you have any questions, or you can make comments on my blog, theparchment.net. And I'm on Facebook as well. And so feel free to make comments and suggestions, and maybe share how you do your own sermon prep. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.